Welcome to MoggyBoxCraft. I'm Deborah and welcome back to my greenhouse and garden. Every time I come out here, I just feel like there's oodles to cut back and oodles to do and harvest. I mean, having things to harvest is no bad thing. Or something to water, oh my lord, it's either complete torrential downpour in Scotland or constantly watering. There's no in between. I would love to just come out one day to the garden, everything's done, and just have a day of sunbathing and drinking cocktails. But today is not that day. So let's get this tour started in the greenhouse. So after a really good cutback this morning, this is how my greenhouse is looking. So everything's grown really well, considering it was such a late start to the year with such awful weather. My passion fruit plant has gone a little bit crazy, although there is absolutely no flowers on it, which is a bit disappointing. Next we've got some melon plants. I've ended up chopping these back loads because they were just going everywhere and it was just a bit of a mess in the greenhouse. Realistically, I don't think I'm going to get any melons grown in Scotland, but it was a nice idea while it lasted. All the tomatoes are actually doing really well, and there's loads of tomatoes in here. They're just all still green, but we have got one tomato in here that's starting to ripen. So these are money makers. I've grown these ones from seeds I saved from last year's crop. They are growing very well. I've actually had to chop some of the tops off because they were hitting the top of the greenhouse up there. And these are the money makers out the packet. I mean, I'd say they're doing quite well as well. Maybe the seed saved ones are doing maybe slightly better. I feel there's quite a lot of tomatoes in here and in there. Well, actually there's still quite a lot down there as well, isn't there? Until I taste them later in the year, I really don't know if there's any difference. And then I've got the sun blush tomatoes at the bottom of the greenhouse. These ones are grown from seeds I saved from last year. And some of the seed saved sun golds are starting to ripen. I'm so pleased about that. These are maybe slightly redder than they were last year. Let me try one. They should be a more orange colour like those, but are they going to taste as good? Oh my gosh, yeah. Apologies if I now spent the rest of this video with tomato seeds in my teeth, but they taste beautiful. Oh, there is a reason why sun golds are my favourite tomato. You will never get a tomato from a supermarket that tastes as good as that. There is no comparison to growing your own. So good! So anyway, these are the sun gold tomatoes that are just out the packet. None of these have turned red as yet, but there is a lot of them there. A reason for them not being quite so good as the seed saved ones yet is because they're seed saved, although sun golds are an F1 hybrid, which does mean if you seed save from them, they don't always produce a tomato true to what you think it's going to be because it's an F1 hybrid. But these tomatoes could be doing slightly better in my greenhouse this year because I grew them in my greenhouse last year. So it might be more adapted to the conditions I have. Maybe. Who knows? Who cares? They taste amazing. I've also got a few loofah plants growing and I can safely say these are doing terrible. There is a flower there and there's one in here. If that's supposed to be a loofah, I think we might not be getting loofahs this year. I've also got some loofahs in this pot as well. Same story, unfortunately. They're starting to grow really well now, which I think in the middle of August might be a bit late. We do have this one here. I'd like to say this looks slightly more promising, but I don't know how that's going to be big enough to be a loofah anytime soon. The loofah plant as well seems to be really bad for attracting bugs. There seems to be little aphidy things and little white things on loads of leaves. I've tried to treat this. You can maybe see it a bit better here. I have treated this, but they just keep coming back. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. But, you know, I live in hope. Maybe we'll get a loofah yet. Maybe we'll have a growing miracle and this will turn into a loofah before winter kicks in. I'm forever hopeful. I've also got some cucumbers growing in here. Well, I did have until they got too heavy. They had grown right up to the top of the greenhouse. And because I hadn't been here, they got really big and fell over. So I've had to cut the plant right back down so everything had snapped. At the other side of the greenhouse, I've got more peppers, jalapenos, chilies, aubergines, and some more melons. Oh, I don't know why I do this to myself. The chilies are still green and not red, but I'm hoping they will ripen soon. I've got a reasonable crop of jalapenos coming. Peppers are starting to ripen. This poor sad plant is my aubergine plant. I'll be honest, this is probably the best aubergines I've ever grown. And for the fact I've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't think we can count these. 5 potential aubergines, but none good. That's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? And a melon plant that is not great, but not dead. There's the odd tiny flower, not doing much. Down here I've got a butternut squash that I've had to cut back loads because the leaves are all dead and dying. There's a few wee flowers. And in this pot is the melon. Now this thing, I don't know what to say about this thing. It wants to be everywhere. Look at where it trails to, all up here. Although it must be a hybrid of some kind. So we've got these leaves running across the garden here. It also branches off here and along here with these leaves. It also seems to have decided that this is the perfect place to grow a melon. Here, in the roof. I don't know if that's going to work. If that survives, that's definitely going to need some support. Although it does make the greenhouse look quite pretty with all that melon leaves everywhere. I really like how that looks. It's really pretty. And I've got a honeycomb tomato plant. I know that pot is far too small, but never mind. Then we've got red skin peppers, prairie hot chilies, and jalapenos that seem to have taken off or taken over. This is definitely the best any jalapenos I've ever grown have ever looked. I'm really proud of that. Now if we could just get some of them to turn into jalapenos and them taste good, that would be even better. And at the bottom of the greenhouse we have the sweet corn. So let's get real for a minute. This sweet corn is not looking the best this year. This is the darkest part of my greenhouse. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that behind here the hedge had grown really big, which I'll get to later. I have been chopping at that today. I don't really have an excuse for it. I probably haven't fed it enough or done something. These ones look terrible. I also think I mixed up the varieties I planted this year. Although I do have some cobs, so we will wait and see. I'll harvest them soon and we shall try them, see if they're any good. So let's head on to the decking now, where I grow my strawberries. I have one avocado plant. Hello, Senior Wolf. Are you just chilling on the decking? Hello, sausage. In case you've watched any of my furniture DIY videos, I thought I'd give you a little update that all this paint is actually wearing really blinking well. I think it's because it's undercover. It is doing rather well, although the rocking chair has got a bit of a wobble in it now. So I am going to have to get that fixed. But apart from that, everything's looking good. Even my painted sofa. Let's start with the strawberries I bought this year. We've got Symphony, Honey, and El Santa. I've gotten a few strawberries off these this year, but my main thing to get was new little strawberry plants. So from these plants, I've got these runners. So this morning I just chopped off little tendrils that were holding them onto the plants, because I think they're big enough now to do pretty good by themselves. Then we've got the strawberries I grew this year. This variety is called Temptation. I'll be honest, I thought these strawberry seeds were absolute duds because it took me 2 attempts to get these to grow. But now they're going, they won't seem to stop. It's maybe a tiny bit late in the year, but loads of these are flowering now, so maybe we'll get some late strawberries. And these weird looking strawberries on sticks are Chenopodium. I don't know how to pronounce these. These are weird looking strawberries. I mean, they are strawberries apparently, but they look like raspberries, but on sticks. They're just the most bizarre strawberries ever. They're pretty cool though. I really like these. I did have 3 of these plants, but unfortunately 1 died. But I still have 2, so the fruit is still really rather small. Is it supposed to look like this? I don't know. Hopefully they'll be better next year. And the rest of the strawberry plants are doing pretty good as well. So I have tidied up the strawberries today. There was loads of runners coming off them. I still have a few strawberries still ripening. That one's nearly ready to eat. And these white strawberries are gorgeous, love them. I've left a few runners on this plant in here because I'd really like a few more of these white strawberry plants. And those are the hanging baskets with strawberries. No more strawberries on them, unfortunately. But they did have lots of runners this year. Down from our decking area on our garden stair steps has been a bit of a disaster this year. We've got some mint up here, a poor attempt at a confetti garden, and the lemon balm. The lemon balm seems to have done okay, but that's the only thing in this area that's done okay. I think because our red acer tree has gotten quite big over the last few years. It just blocks out too much light. So next year I'm going to try and find plants for this area that like shade. Yeah, it's a bit of a sad looking area, isn't it? Let's move on. So let's move on to the raised beds because they've been a little bit more successful. So let's start with these seedlings I planted about a month ago. We've got purple haze carrots, growing quite nicely. Samurai carrots, I think I've got 6. Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? How bizarre that the purple ones are growing and the samurais are not. Never mind. Next to them is the beetroot. We've got 3 different varieties in here. We've got Boltree, Rainbow, and one I can't pronounce. I thinned these out a few weeks ago and popped them under the green protector mesh box where my cauliflower had been. We've got salad and lettuce and little gem lettuce. Again, not the best. I did thin these out. I have planted a few over there. Next to them is the Courgettes, Defenders. I know I've let these courgettes get too big, but I want them to be marrows so I can make courgette marrow chutney. Although you might not believe it, courgette chutney is amazing. We always have too much courgette and we never know what to do with them. This courgette chutney recipe, honestly, you will not regret it. It's beautiful. Another chef's kiss. Oh, so good. Highly recommend. We'll post that video when I get round to doing it. I also thought I'd lost all my Virginia 3 courgettes, but it turns out one little sneaky plant did survive. We got that seed packet in Tenerife. Feels like a million years ago since we were in Tenerife. Will we ever get to go on holiday again? Because I'm now officially out of that type of seed, so I need to get back to Tenerife sometime so I can buy more. In the bottom of this raised bed, I've got my pumpkins. They're starting to do really well. In fact, they are really starting to spread. They are growing all through the courgettes and starting to flower over here. So hopefully these turn into pumpkins. I think this is zombie pumpkins. Ah well, we will have to wait to find out. And at the other side is the sugar pumpkin, which is having a blast growing down this cold frame. And I'm happy to report we have pumpkins. Oh, look how cute it is. Oh, I'm so excited for Halloween already. In fact, we've got even more pumpkins. Oh, they're so cute. I might be a touch excited about Halloween already. Please let me build up a Halloween party this year because I finally might have grown some pumpkins that we can carve. From pumpkins to tatties. These are Desiree tatties that I planted about 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago. They're doing rather well, aren't they? Hopefully they'll be great for winter harvest. On the packet it did say from November to December for harvesting, so we shall see. Then there's some autumn 2 king carrots and some half-long white parsnips. And of course, more winter veg, Brussels sprouts. Although I have to admit, I'm really excited about these ones. Purple Brussels sprouts, can you even believe it? And in the green mesh protector box, I've got my transplanted beetroot seedlings. By some miracle, loads of these have survived. I imagine good luck, not good management. And the wilderness that is the asparagus. I think I've just been giving up with this stuff. I don't know what to do with it, so I'm just going to leave it from now on. And hopefully next year we'll actually get something that looks more like, well, asparagus. Now on to the third raised bed. So this monstrosity of plant is carrots. I planted these carrots last summer and ate them all last winter. So I left a few of the carrots in the ground so they would flower, so I can seed save from them. So once they flower, they look like this, and then they slowly close in on themselves and look like this. So I need to harvest these at some point, but I'm not exactly sure exactly when that is. I think I need to do a bit more research. But hopefully next year I shall be growing seed-saved carrots. Won't that be exciting? Will it work? You're going to have to subscribe to find out. And down here we've got a sad excuse for set onions. They seem to be growing okay. Hopefully they'll get better. And then in here I've got shallot potatoes and rooster potatoes. I have dug out some of the shallot potatoes. You can see where the rest of the leaves have all died back. I still need to dig them out, but they'll be fine in the ground for the moment. And then we've got the rooster potatoes. They are starting to die back a little bit, but they're not quite ready yet. And now it is on to all my berry and fruit trees. Oh hi, do you want a cameo? They run down the wall behind me in the garden. The blackberries are starting to appear, although they do have quite a long way to go before they're ripe. And a couple of weeks ago I harvested all my red currants and chopped this tree right back so I could expose my raspberry bush. I know I should probably move the compost bin, but I can't because the dogs love to dig there. I don't know why, it's the only spot in the garden they want to dig at. So the compost bin has to stay, unfortunately. But now the red currant bush has been cut away, I'm really hoping that'll do a lot better next year. And then we've got the apple and pear tree. We do have some mighty good apples this year. That is a good sized apple, isn't it? Got a few that are a bit blemished. but lots of them are looking pretty good. Well, maybe not actually. But the piece de resistance in my garden this year has to be the pears. You do have to look rather closely, but there's quite a lot of pears in this tree. Look at all those lovely pears. I know it's not an orchard, I know it's not a massive amount of pears, but it is to me. Last year we had no pears, and the year before that I had 2, so this is mountains of pears. I cannot even express how excited I am to have this many pears. And from pear to bramble. Earlier this year I cut the bramble right back because there was just so much dead on it. The brambles are just so nearly ready, they're starting to ripen. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, this one's nearly ready. Do I spy a few brambles that are ripe? Brambles. Yum. It's actually heavenly. I don't know the exact name of them, although I've seen a picture that I thought looked really close, and I'm sure they were called a Japanese wineberry. Something like that. It's a type of bramble anyway. They're like a really sweet raspberry. They're so good. If you find this type of bramble, I highly recommend you grow it in your garden. You will not regret it. It's great for eating. I'm sure it'd be brilliant for jam. Heck, you're never going to be able to have enough of them left over after you eat them all to make any jam. Can't wait for some more of these to ripen. And then there was the blackcurrant. We do seem to have blackcurrants growing. Yeah, there's a few on this. I wonder if they're any good. Oh, they're going to be really shilpit, aren't they? In case you didn't know, blackcurrants are really not my favourite, and neither are blackberries or red currants. I think they're really shilpit and bitter. But let's try it and see if they're any better this year. No, they're not. No, blackcurrant jam, yes. Blackcurrants as a snack, no. No, absolutely not. Also, our hedge has been quite overgrown recently, so I took the secateurs to it and the electric hedge trimmer, and this is how it's looking now. Oh, doesn't that look much neater? Especially in the middle there where all the bird feeders are, and at the back of the greenhouse. This was absolutely chock-a-block with foliage, so now it's all chopped back, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more light in here. So hopefully the sweetcorn might be a little bit happier in there, and then get in here a little bit easier to refill the bird feeders. Oh, I think that looks a heap better, doesn't it? And now on to my new favourite part of the garden, flowers and flower planters. This is probably the second year I've had flowers in the garden. I started this journey thinking I was only going to grow fruit and veg. Turns out I like flowers as well, because turns out I like the garden, and I think that's just part of it. Behind me here is my rainbow flower planter with flowers organised in rainbow formation. So hopefully next year or so my plan is to have some more rainbow formation planters dotted around the garden. But until such times, let me show you what I have been growing, or trying to grow. At the bottom of every raised bed I've got a few planter things. Not much to say about that one. Here we've got a bay tree, nasturtiums. This is a Himalayan poppy. I grew it from seed 2 years ago and it still hasn't flowered, which is a little bit concerning. Hopefully next year we will have blue poppies though. Then we've got an entwined pear tree, which is a beautiful engagement gift from some of our friends. I love this. I can't wait to get this planted properly. Gaillardias looking a little bit worse for wear. Our confetti garden, which was another gift from one of our friends, not been quite so successful. Got one tiny clary flower. The larkspur's been eaten by all the slugs again, or snails. The cornflowers were beautiful, but they're starting to die back now. I also don't think I supported them particularly well to start with. And then we've got the rainbow planter. I've been busy deadheading all these flowers today, so it's not looking its absolute finest. And one of my favourite plants this year is the hollyhocks that I grew from seed last year. These are such a beautiful flower. Although this one might need a little bit of help staying up straight. I just can't get over the colour of these. But that's definitely going to need a little bit of support, isn't it? Or that is going to snap. I've tied it up with a little bit of string. So hopefully they'll feel a little bit more supported now and stay upright. I'd be gutted if those broke. I also have a lot of pansies this year, so I really want to try and seed safe from them. So when they start dying back, they seem to pop open with a whole pile of seeds. They look like this. So I've been cutting them off and popping them in an envelope. So already I've got a load of seeds that I'm going to store in here. So hopefully with these saved seeds, I'll be able to grow more pansies next year for free. I almost forgot to show you how my onions and garlic are doing. I think the onions are drying really nicely. And so is the garlic. Really pleased with the harvest this year. And whenever I need some, I just pop out to our shed and grab some. So let me know in the comments down below how your gardens are doing. Are your garden as far behind as mine? This year has been a bit bizarre because everything was so late starting. I feel like the whole garden is about a month behind. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, share and subscribe. Of course, subscribing is optional, but it is very much appreciated. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!